Y'all, this was never supposed to be a headline. It was supposed to be a quiet getaway, a romantic escape, a love story playing out behind closed doors in Zanzibar. But instead, it turned into something dark, something disturbing, something that now has people asking questions nobody can comfortably answer. Because what happened to Ashlee Jenae doesn't read like a simple tragedy. It reads like something staged, something controlled, something that spiraled the moment the truth came out. And according to Jaguar Wright, that truth is exactly what got Ashlee in danger. We're talking about a relationship that looked perfect on the surface, but behind those villa walls, reports describe constant arguments, rising tension, and a kind of chaos that neighbors couldn't ignore. Then comes the claim that changes everything. Ashlee allegedly discovered that Joe McCann wasn't just her fiancé. He was living a hidden double life. And the moment she saw it, everything shifted. Now here's where it gets even darker. Ashlee is found inside a locked room, hanging in a wardrobe, barely alive. Joe McCann, he's supposedly miles away with a clean alibi, but then an engagement ring turns up in a car, stained with blood. Let that sink in. If this was what they're calling it, then why does nothing line up? Why are autopsy results being held back? Why was Ashlee reportedly telling friends she was afraid? And why are whispers growing louder that this wasn't just a relationship gone wrong, but something far more calculated? Jaguar Wright didn't just speak on this, she detonated it. And now the question isn't what happened, it's who's trying to make sure you never find out.
Details on the investigation into the death of Ashlee Robinson. Her family is demanding answers after the influencer from South Jersey was found dead during a trip to Africa where she had just been engaged.
She just lost her life while she was supposed to be celebrating and having a dream vacation in Zanzibar with her new fiance. I mean, we're talking about a birthday. We're talking about an engagement that happened on her.
The call was shocking. It was devastating and scary, honestly, because we don't know what's going on, what happened.
What makes this case so unsettling isn't just the ending, it's how quickly everything unraveled once Ashlee Jenae arrived in Zanzibar. From the outside, it looked like a romantic trip, a fiancé, a private villa, a chance to disconnect from the world. But behind that carefully curated image, something was already off. Sources describe tension almost immediately. Not subtle tension, the kind you can ignore, but loud, disruptive arguments that carried beyond the villa walls. Staff reportedly noticed the shift. Neighbors allegedly heard raised voices, repeated confrontations, and emotional breakdowns that didn't match the picture of a couple in love. This wasn't a vacation, it was pressure building in real time. And then comes the detail that changes everything. According to claims amplified by Jaguar Wright, Ashlee didn't just stumble into a rough patch, she discovered something she wasn't meant to see. Joe McCann, the man she trusted, the man she planned to marry, was allegedly living a double life. Not rumors, not suspicions, something concrete enough to trigger confrontation. The timeline tightens here. Because once that discovery happened, everything escalated. Fast. Reports suggest that Ashlee confronted Joe directly. What was said in that moment remains unclear, but the aftermath is what's raising alarms. Witness accounts describe a night where emotions weren't just high, they were explosive, and then suddenly, the narrative fractures. Officially, the story is simple. Ashlee ends up alone in a separate villa. Joe is placed miles away in a different location entirely. A clean distance, a controlled separation. On paper, it creates a timeline that feels convenient. Almost too convenient, because what happens next doesn't match that simplicity.
She was happy, she was excited about life and looking forward to her future. So now you got two completely different narratives.
Officially, no, we have not talked to anyone from the police or anybody in the medical field at all. Nothing.
But Tanzania don't care about who he is or how much he's worth. You think you're gonna come up in their country and unalive they people? Because people, granted, she is from Kenya. She has citizenship both in Kenya and in the U.S. Not only, but that is the same exact reason why they seized his passport and he's been detained now.
Staff member reportedly approaches Ashlee's room. It's dark. No response. Silence where there shouldn't be silence. When the door is finally opened, the scene inside isn't calm, and it isn't explainable in a single sentence. Ashlee is found inside a wardrobe, suspended but still alive, struggling, not gone. That detail alone disrupts the entire narrative. This wasn't an instant conclusion. This was something that unfolded, something that left time, signs, and questions behind. And yet, instead of clarity, everything becomes more complicated, because then comes the ring. Her engagement ring, something symbolic, something personal, isn't found on her. It's discovered inside a car, not just misplaced, but reportedly stained with blood. That single detail has forced people to stop accepting the the official version at face value, if this was exactly what it's being described as, how does that piece of evidence exist in a completely separate location? It doesn't fit. And when details don't fit, people start looking at what's missing. The autopsy has reportedly been completed, but the results remain unreleased. The family is waiting, the public is watching, and the silence surrounding those findings is only amplifying suspicion, because in cases where everything is clear, information moves. Here, it's stalled. Then there are the warnings. According to sources, Ashlee had expressed fear before everything happened, not vague discomfort, direct statements. She allegedly told someone close to her that she was scared, that she wanted out, that something about the situation didn't feel safe anymore. Those words now carry a different weight, because when you place them against everything else, the arguments, the alleged discovery, the separation, the scene inside that room, they stop sounding like emotion and start sounding like a signal. Jaguar Wright's claims didn't create this story. They intensified it. She didn't introduce doubt. She amplified questions that were already there, pushing them into a spotlight people can't ignore. And now, every piece of this case feels like it's sitting just slightly out of alignment, not enough to give you answers, but more than enough to make you question everything you've been told.
What got her to where she is now? That's the thing that's still boggling my mind, because right now, I'm telling you right now, guys, this story is far from over. There's a lot of deep diving into this. A lot of people are wanting to know, did something sinister actually happen or not?
Ashlee's final posts on social media were of her celebrating her birthday with giraffes in Tanzania, Africa, and getting engaged to her boyfriend, Joseph McCann. But there's a local report claiming initial investigations determined Ashlee took her own life during the trip after falling out with her fiancé just days after he proposed.
What pushes this case from disturbing to deeply suspicious isn't just what happened inside that room, it's everything surrounding it that refuses to settle into a clean narrative. Because once authorities stepped in, the story didn't become clearer. It became quieter. Timelines were presented, but they felt controlled. Statements were made, but they left gaps. And in those gaps, the most critical questions started to grow. Joe McCann's distance from the scene quickly became the centerpiece of the official narrative. 10 minutes away. Different location. No direct connection to the moment Ashlee was found. On paper, it sounds airtight, but distance only works as an alibi if every other detail supports it. And here they don't, because while he was reportedly away, something was unfolding in that room that suggests time, struggle, and escalation. This wasn't an instant event. This was something that developed, something that may have involved more than just a single moment of decision. And that raises a dangerous question. Was the timeline constructed after the fact, or are key pieces simply being left out? Then comes the behavior. According to circulating reports, Joe's actions before and after the incident aren't aligning with what people expect in a situation like this. There are claims of inconsistencies, movements that don't fully match the official sequence, reactions that feel detached, almost calculated, nothing definitive, but enough to keep attention locked on him. Because in cases like this, behavior speaks louder than statements. And then there's the environment itself.
I just spoke to the family of Ashlee Robinson. She's the 31-year-old influencer who was on vacation with her fiance celebrating her birthday. He actually proposed on the trip. But something crazy happened. She was having a good time. Her family said she was very excited to be there, shared pictures with the family, FaceTimed them when she was proposed to. But they released a statement saying that Ashlee was found unconscious in her villa and was rushed to a local hospital where her death was confirmed out.
Zanzibar isn't just a backdrop, it's a variable. A place where jurisdiction, local authority, and international pressure intersect in complicated ways. When a case like this happens in a location like that, information doesn't always flow the way people expect. It can be slowed, filtered, managed, which makes the silence around the autopsy even louder, because by now results should have clarified at least some part of the story: cause of death, timeline indicators, physical evidence that either supports or contradicts the narrative being presented. But instead there's delay, no public breakdown, no clear answers, and when official channels go quiet, unofficial voices get louder. That's where Jaguar Wright's statements begin to dominate the conversation. She didn't approach this like a distant observer. She spoke with certainty, framing the situation as something far more deliberate than accidental. According to her, this wasn't just a toxic relationship spiraling out of control. It was a situation built on control, secrecy, and manipulation. Her most explosive claim cut straight through the center of the case, that Ashlee saw something she wasn't supposed to see, and from that moment forward, the outcome was no longer in her control. That statement alone has reshaped how people are looking at every detail, because if that's even partially true, then every piece of evidence becomes something else entirely. The distance becomes strategy, the silence becomes protection, the missing clarity becomes intentional, and then there are the external whispers, rumors suggesting that this case is attracting attention beyond local authorities, that certain agencies may be observing quietly, not stepping in publicly, but watching how this unfolds. Nothing confirmed, nothing official, but the idea alone has added another layer of tension. Because if outside eyes are involved, it means there's more here than what's being presented.
It was starting the next chapter of her life. She called us and FaceTimed us to share with us her travel.
Ashlee's mother says she never would have expected that less than a week later, her daughter would be dead. On April 8th, she says Ashlee called saying she and her fiance got into an argument and were moved to separate rooms. The next day, she received another call, this time from her fiance.
He told me that Ashlee did something to herself and that she was being taken to the hospital. I said, what happened, when? And he told me it had been 11 hours prior.
Hours later, the luxury resort the couple was staying at called saying that Ashlee passed away.
And yet, despite all of this, no one has stepped forward with a definitive explanation that satisfies the contradictions. Instead, the case sits in a state of controlled ambiguity. A woman is gone. A fiancé stands at the center of unanswered questions. Key evidence doesn't align with the official version. Critical reports remain unreleased, and a voice like Jaguar Wright's continues to push a narrative that refuses to be ignored. At this point, it's no longer just about what happened that night. It's about why every attempt to explain it only seems to make it darker.
All right, hear me out. And maybe this is just me, but I just thought about it because I was driving on my way home. I'd really be ready to cut a nigga off over smoke. Like the littlest thing, I'd just be turned off, like It was mad people in the regular lane, and the express lane was clear as I'm zooming through that, pass it, feet. As a grown man in 2023, living in the state of Florida, specifically Dade County, Broward County, doing without a sun pass. Like honestly, you want to just vibe in traffic. Vibe. Could take you 15 minutes to get somewhere. You want to chill out for the next 45 minutes sitting in a regular lane for what? It ain't gonna work with me, baby. It ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. I ain't gonna lie. I'm talking about, yo, babe, get over into the express lanes faster. Nah, like I ain't finna do all that. Drive over them.
By the time this case reached the public, it wasn't just a story anymore. It was a fracture. Every new detail didn't bring clarity. It widened the gap between what's being said and what actually makes sense. Because now, the focus isn't only on the night Ashlee Jenae was found, it's on everything that led up to it and everything that followed. Investigators may have outlined a sequence, but people close to the situation are questioning what's missing from that sequence. Not small details, critical ones. The kind that determine whether this was a moment of despair or something far more deliberate. Start with the physical scene, a wardrobe, a confined space, a situation that suggests limitation, not freedom. Analysts and observers have pointed out how unusual that setup is. Not impossible, but specific, controlled. It raises the question of how events escalated to that exact point and whether Ashlee had full agency in those final moments. Then layer in the reported struggle. She wasn't found gone, she was found fighting. That detail continues to echo through every discussion surrounding this case because it introduces time, it introduces resistance, it introduces the possibility that whatever happened inside that room didn't unfold quietly. And yet there's no clear explanation of what interrupted that struggle or who. Because while Ashlee was inside that room, the narrative still places Joe McCann at a distance, removed, detached, untouched by the immediate scene. But distance in situations like this doesn't erase involvement, it complicates it. People are starting to look at that distance differently now, not as separation, but as design, because if everything unfolded exactly as presented, then every piece should align without pressure. But instead, each new detail feels like it's pushing against something unseen. The ring in the car, the delayed reports, the silence from key channels, none of it settles, it shifts. And in that shifting narrative, attention has turned toward what hasn't been publicly addressed at all. Communication. Who spoke to Ashlee in her final hours? What messages were sent? What calls were made? And more importantly, what calls weren't? Digital timelines have a way of revealing what physical evidence can't, and yet none of that has been laid out in a way the public can examine, which leaves space for speculation to grow unchecked, and that's exactly where voices like Jaguar Wright's gain traction. Because while official information slows down, her claims accelerate. She frames the situation not as an isolated incident, but as part of a larger pattern, one where control is maintained through silence, and outcomes are shaped long before they appear accidental. Whether people believe her or not isn't the point anymore. The point is that her version forces people to look at this case from a different angle, one where nothing is random and nothing is as simple as it's being presented. Meanwhile, Ashlee's family remains in a state of waiting for answers, waiting for reports, waiting for a level of transparency that still hasn't arrived, and that delay has turned grief into something heavier, something closer to suspicion, because when time passes without clarity, trust begins to erode. At this stage, the case exists in two parallel versions. One is official, structured, clean, built on distance, timing, and controlled facts. The other is fragmented, unsettling, built on inconsistencies, missing information, and a growing sense that something critical is being withheld. And the longer those two versions fail to meet, the louder the questions become. What really happened inside that room? Why does key evidence feel disconnected from the story being told? And why, despite everything, does it still feel like the most important piece of this case hasn't been revealed? Because until those answers surface, this isn't a closed story. It's an open wound. And someone somewhere knows exactly why. And this is where everything stops feeling like a mystery and starts feeling like something that was never meant to be solved. Because no matter how you look at it, the pieces don't sit right. A woman allegedly terrified before her final hours, a fiancé surrounded by questions but protected by distance, evidence that refuses to align, reports that stay hidden, silence where there should be answers. That's not closure, that's control. Jaguar Wright didn't just shake this story, she forced people to look at what's being avoided. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This isn't just about what happened to Ashlee Jenae. It's about why every detail feels filtered before it reaches the public. Because when the truth is simple, it doesn't need to be managed. So ask yourself this: why is it being managed now? Why does every new detail create more questions instead of answers? Why does key evidence feel disconnected from the official version? And why does it feel like someone somewhere is counting on the public to lose interest before the full picture ever comes out? That's how stories like this disappear. Not with answers, but with silence. But here's the problem. They didn't expect people to keep digging. They didn't expect voices like Jaguar Wright to keep pushing. And they definitely didn't expect this case to gain the kind of attention that refuses to fade. So now the pressure shifts. Because the spotlight is no longer optional, and until every missing piece is exposed, this case doesn't close, it builds. So don't look away now. Because the real story, it hasn't surfaced yet.